Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of FGs and Threes. This is the first episode of our new schedule, so you're going to see us on. We're going to be filming on Sundays and Wednesdays, and we're going to be releasing on Fridays and Tuesdays.
A lot more often. It's going to be
Bring you
good.
more
We're getting
content.
this going. We're getting it going. We're getting this rolling. I like it. We're getting a little mojo going.
So for this episode, we're going to stick mainly to basketball. In the next episode, we're going to go to football and keep going back and forth. So starting on basketball, last time we were on the podcast, you were right, Ryan. Blake Griffin did dunk in his very first game.
When am I ever
his only
wrong?
dunk.
First of all, when am I ever wrong when it comes to the NBA?
Yeah.
The Jazz. That's when.
Hey. Calm down.
When the Jazz get swept by the 6-seeded Lakers.
6-seeded.
That's all I'm saying.
Guess.
They get swept out of the playoffs.
But yeah, because of it, I had to wear my
Hold that.
Aaron Williams branch. Oh yeah, you might see Ryan scarfing down pizza this entire episode.
Hey, I just got done with spring ball practice. I am starving, so I got a nice pizza and ranch over here.
All right, starving Marvin.
All right. So first on the topic line, the trade deadline happened. We saw a very eventful trade deadline, and we're gonna go through it, not too slow, not too fast, but we're gonna go through it, giving everybody's winner and loser of this trade deadline.
Yeah. So my winner, and this might be a little bit weird. I think my winner is the Clippers. That Rondo acquisition, we saw the difference that he made for the Lakers last year, and you're going to see that same impact. He's going to play defense. He's going to hold guys accountable. He's just going to, be another leader in the locker room. He has that championship experience. He has 2 chips now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're the winners, in my opinion, because the one thing they were missing was a floor general, and now they got it. They're the winners, in my opinion.
And now, do you think Schroeder is going to come off the bench, or do you think he's going to keep starting? Because honestly, Schroeder he's been a good starter.
No, the Clippers, not the Lakers.
Oh God, because he said Lakers. I was thinking, but yeah,
no, Rondo got traded.
It sort of replaces the Lou Williams veteran.
Yeah, so because Lou Will got traded there, so they let off a little scoring. But they also have Reggie Jackson. They have a lot of guys, Marcus Morris. They have guys that can put the ball in the bucket. But what they don't have,
for a reason. This is why they paid him.
Yeah, they got a shooter. They got guys, but they didn't have this. And I think this might be the Clippers' year to go all the way. Although the Nets are looking just unbeatable.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. So my winner of this trade deadline, I actually think the Miami Heat really pulled something off with their Victor Oladipo, and they only gave up a pick swap, Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk, for another star to go alongside Bam and Jimmy and Harrow. They have on paper, it's not going to look like the Nets or the Lakers, but they really have a just overall complete lineup now. And
you got to be honest here, Jimmy Butler, he plays a lot like Kawhi. He just doesn't get the recognition like Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
He plays that tough defense, and he does what he has to do on offense. And honestly, he's more of a playmaker than Kawhi. I mean, for a stretch of games, he was averaging 23, 9, and 9. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And now you're adding Victor Oladipo on top of already having
athleticism through the roof now for the Heat.
They could be a scary team.
So
to face in the East.
Here's my thing: is Jimmy Butler good enough to win you a championship?
Yes.
They proved it last year. They brought him to 6 games against the 180 Lakers.
I just don't know, because when it gets down to it, you really need like a top 5 player in the world. There's only a couple players on the planet. Don't say it.
Jimmy Butler.
It's not top 5, but
you can
in the
think
Heat's
what you want.
case, it's not really an all-star. It's not really a top 5 star that they need. It's just they're able to get everybody to get everybody firing on all cylinders. That's what they're able to do.
You need a top 5 player to win a championship. That's a fact.
Jimmy Butler can become that. Just because he doesn't have the all-stars, he doesn't have the accolades that
he's not a top 5 player. So who are you taking Jimmy over out of KD, LeBron, Kawhi, AD, and Giannis, and Steph, and Harden? That's 7. Who are you taking him over 3 of them?
AD.
You're taking him over AD. Okay, you're ridiculous. AD is the second best player in the world.
On this world.
Anyway, that's a conversation for a different day.
He's not a top 5 player, and you need a top 5 player to win a championship. At least historically, unless they out of nowhere unless you're the Pistons and you just have the greatest defense of all time in 04, you need a top 5 player to elevate you and bring you home when it matters to get a bucket like Brandon Ingram.
I mean, from what I saw last year, Jimmy Butler can bring this team to the finals. We saw him literally do it last year.
But can he win the finals? That's my thing. Can he win a chip as your best player? I'm not sold.
Now, I think they can.
I think, well, first of all, do we even know is Oladipo the same player? Obviously, he can defend still. That's just about effort. But can he create his shot the same way when it comes down to it and there's a guy slapping the floor, saying, I'm not going to let you score? Can he, fool him and get a mid-range bucket, get to the cup? Can he hit a 3, sidestep? Can he do all these things that he was able to do 2-3 years prior? He's not the same player, but if he could be 90% of what he was, then maybe.
Okay, so Clippers and Heat, obviously, they had their respective wins in this free agency trade deadline. But I think there's one team that really outshine the rest. And that's the Denver Nuggets. Listen, first of all, very underrated trade they made early on in the day, getting JaVale McGee for that backup center role. Yeah. So then Jokic, and if not so Jokic can get time off because he's going to play 40 minutes. I expect him to play 40 minutes a game in the playoffs. But JaVale McGee is going to be a nice defensive presence to help.
The Nuggets needed a good rim protector aside from Jokic, and that's what
JaVale McGee can definitely do that, and he can help Jokic stretch the floor and stay active on the offensive side because they're going to need his offense in the playoffs. But then also trading for Aaron Gordon. They had to give up pieces like R.J. Hampton, Gary Harris. Pieces that probably would have helped in the long run, but this team needs to win now, and Aaron Gordon helps that. He's 13th in defensive efficiency this year. So everyone's saying that why would they trade for Aaron Gordon? That's a big tell right there. He can stretch the floor like Paul Millsap. He's basically just a younger Paul Millsap.
I don't like that. I don't like that comparison at all.
He's a younger, more athletic Paul Millsap.
Paul was a little slower.
They're completely different.
Paul was
players.
A little slower in his tempo.
Yeah, completely different players. Gordon can play fast-paced. He could shoot the 3 now. He could drive to the rim and dunk over you. Paul Millsap's very methodical. Completely different.
More athletic.
But
what I'm trying to say, he's a more modern Paul Millsap because Paul Millsap, he can stretch the floor. He can, he can drive and all that. It's just that he's 35, so he's not going to.
So does this make Paul Millsap expendable? Basically, are you going to be able to trade him next year or let him walk in free agency the next couple of years?
Well, I think the plan is to let him walk since Aaron Gordon has that big contract with him. So Paul Millsap is an expiring contract, so they might have to let him go. And this is still going to keep them competitive for years, though, because I know Jamal Murray ain't leaving. Michael Porter Jr. is probably not going to leave. I don't see an instance, at least in the next couple of years, where
he's tied in for another couple of years at least.
I think Jokic is going to be a Nugget for life.
Yeah, I'd see that too.
I don't see him going anywhere.
This is, and I think
for the Nuggets, they were already firing on they already had all the offense, and Aaron Gordon just adds even more offense. and a great amount of defense, along with the JaVale. It made them even more well-rounded.
Yeah, well, here's my thing with it. Let me just say this. Here's my thing. Does this put them over the top? Like, for me, the Rondo move puts the Clippers over the top. They could beat the Lakers possibly now. I could see them in a 7-game series beating the Lakers and possibly even beating the Nets. That's what Rondo did for me, for the Clippers. Does Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee, great players in their own respect, does that put the Nuggets over the top and make them championship, like real, like, top 4 team, top 3 team? For me, it doesn't.
I think it does.
Well,
because
for me,
this
it depends on what Jamal Murray you get in the playoffs. Because Jamal, especially if they're facing the Lakers, you're going to be able to slow down LeBron inside. You're going to be able to slow down AD inside because you have all the big men inside. But at the same time,
that didn't happen last year, though. They had their way with them last year
because they only had Jokic out there. Millsap was too small for AD. Jeremy Grant could not guard LeBron. Aaron Gordon, I mean,
Jeremy Grant, in my opinion, is a better defender than Gordon.
Guarding LeBron.
I think Gordon's is a worse defender than Jeremy Grant. So, does it really matter? Like, that's my thing, is I don't think this puts them over the top. I think they got a little bit better, but the gap still, like, it's like, all right, the gap's like this, now it's like this. There's still a gap between the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nets, possibly Philly, and everyone else.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they actually have a. Go ahead.
The thing for me is that Jokic is just that much of a stud player. I mean, he does everything for this team. Like the Nuggets, does it make them title contenders? It gives them a better hope. But to me, it's based off what Jamal Murray can do offensively in the playoffs. And just, you got to take advantage of defensive runs. Are they going to be able to do that? Hopefully. If they can go far. But we'll see how that shapes up.
What I'm looking at is sort of like the player comparisons, especially when it comes to the Nets. Now that you have Jokic and Gordon at the 4 and 5, they're going to be able to overpower the Nets when it comes to Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, or LaMarcus Aldridge. They'll be able to overpower them in there. If they move Aaron to the 3, they might actually have an easier time with KD, or they might actually put Michael Porter on, so that it's not going to stop.
I wouldn't put Porter on
KD.
I'd put Gordon on KD and have Porter play off-ball defense, because you don't want to put a young player like that through the ringer with KD.
Yeah, KD would score 50 a night with Michael Porter Jr. guard.
Yeah, like, and that's not to say
Aaron
Michael
Gordon
Porter Jr. is bad,
3, and then you can put Michael Porter Jr. on at the 4. That's
what I would do.
4 and 5 for the Nuggets they're locked in against the Nets. They're going to be better no matter who you put at the 4 and 5.
Yeah,
Jeff Green.
Like Brian said, what type of Jamal Murray you get in the playoffs if he can defend Kyrie or Harden, and he can outscore Kyrie.
Well, no one can. Let me just help you out there. No one can defend Kyrie or Harden. Can you
slow them down?
Can you slow them down a little bit? Probably not. Can you keep up pace with them offensively? We've seen Jamal Murray do it. Last year he had a run where he was as good as anyone in the league on offense in the playoffs. So, and I'm not a big Jamal Murray guy, but I got to give him his respect where it's due. He hasn't been the same, at least for the first half of the regular season. He's starting to pick it up now. He's starting to dish out a lot of assists, 6-7 assist guy, 25-point guy, a little more efficient. That's what I like to see as we get towards the playoffs. But is that going to be enough? For me, no. So that's where I disagree with you. I disagree.
I would say they would be title contenders this year, but I guess we'll just talk about it. LaMarcus Aldridge going to the Nets, and then Andre Drummond as of 5:00 today, March 28th, he will be a Laker. It's what KD has done to the league, not just this year, but the last 5 years. There's just no parity. It's not. It's what is the point of watching basketball if we all know which two teams are going to be at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what two teams are going to be at the end?
Okay, we could sit here and speculate if the Sixers, if the Bucks, if the Heat can beat the Nets, or we could.
But it's like that every year. It's like that every year, though. Every single year, there's about 4 teams.
That's why he said Katie was doing this for like the past 5 years, because we see it so often. It always happens.
It's been like this for as long as I've been watching basketball. There's about 4 or 5 teams that can realistically make it, and then there's your favorites. So the favorites are the Nets and Lakers probably, and then realistically, the Clippers could make it, the Sixers could make it as well, and then if you take a step back from there, then you got the Jazz, Nuggets, Bucks, those types of teams.
Yeah,
Heat.
I mean,
so it's been the same every year, though.
I know,
we're starting to see the era of super teams.
It's been more prevalent with KD because KD doesn't know how to do it by himself.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to do it with Russell Westbrook, which then in turn became Russell Westbrook's the problem, even though he left to a 73-9 winning team. But apparently Westbrook was the problem, which I still don't understand. But it's
Westbrook was the problem.
He wasn't the problem. You're just a Westbrook hater. But
have you seen Westbrook?
I mean, how do you go from losing 3-1 to
triple double
regular
last
season?
Yeah, but Westbrook is not a winning player. You can't win with that dude. I'm sorry. Is this going to turn to me just bashing Westbrook?
They could have. They were up 3-1, and then KD decided to shut down.
Yeah, if they could have won,
and then he got his feelings hurt because he just blew a 3-1 lead and said, "I'm going to join that team."
Yeah, that was all KD there. You can't.
We got to go away from this. This is a completely different conversation.
Now he's doing it again. He's got his feelings hurt because everyone's giving LeBron all the praise for the MVP award or whatever. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to sign literally every good big man that becomes.
That's not his fault. That's the Nets.
It's definitely the Nets are listening to KD. KD is the ringleader right now, and they're like, "Oh, God,
okay."
It's almost like LeBron. It's almost like LeBron in LA. He was the ringleader. He was calling the shots. If he wanted a player, he would let the Lakers know, and they'd go after him. That's how it works. If you have a star player and they want to play with someone, they're going to try to get that player.
As a fan of the Nets, it's just not fun watching what's happening to our team. From the start of the season when we had KD, Kyrie, Jared Allen, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, all these dudes who we saw the past couple of years go through our team, progress with our team. And we got our guys. We got KD and Kyrie. We got the guys who we thought could bring us over.
It's not fun watching the team chuck out just all the players that you watched grow and just bring in a bunch of free agents that they think will just get them a ring real fast. It's not fun to watch that.
No, not at all. It's like if we win the title this year, obviously I'll be happy. But I'm not going to feel a sense of satisfaction, if that makes sense. Like, I'm a Jags fan. We all know I'm a Jags fan. When the Jags win the Super Bowl with Trevor Lawrence, because it's going to happen, I will cry. Cry tears of joy. But if the Nets win, I'm not going to feel that. I'm just like, oh, cool. KD gets another ring that I don't count. Kyrie,
you've already seen the other two. A lot of people aren't counting them, and now this one's. I'll
count Harden
like the other two.
I'll count Harden. He deserves one. So
that doesn't make sense. How are you not going to count it for KD, but you're going to count it for Harden?
Oh, I mean, Steph Curry has 3. Draymond has 3. Clay has 3. KD has 0. Harden was traded to the Nets. I mean,
yeah.
I also like Harden stuff.
Oh my God.
KD has 0 rings in my eyes. He has 0 rings.
This has turned into a KD hate podcast.
It almost turned into a Westbrook hate podcast, but we stopped.
Yeah, I was about to just go off on Westbrook.
But then I gotta put you down with that because Westbrook was never the problem.
Okay, he was. He's an inefficient scorer who shoots shots that he shouldn't be shooting.
Westbrook wasn't the problem until KD left. Westbrook was not the problem until KD left.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it was all Westbrook.
No, people were saying this. Magic Johnson said it in
Westbrook was the
2012,
only superstar on
right?
that 2016 Thunder team. That's all I'm saying.
What about in
That's all I'm saying.
2012 when they made the finals? What about in
when we look
2012
back
when they
on
made
it,
the finals?
when we
What
talk
about in
about
2012 when they
OKC
made the
Thunder
finals and Magic
2016,
Johnson came
that's all I
out
hear. I
and
hear
said
Russell
that,
Westbrook did
Russell
nothing in the
Westbrook was the
playoffs.
problem? What are you talking about?
Russell Westbrook was not the problem. He was the solution, and Katie didn't want to listen to him.
Katie really going to listen to
got
Magic
his
Johnson.
feelings hurt, blew a 3-1 lead because he didn't know how to make three.
All right, let's move
Magic
on.
Johnson couldn't even run the Lakers.
I'm not even going to discuss this.
So now we'll move on to losers of the trade deadline. My first loser of the trade deadline, and I guess buyout options, I have to go with the Boston Celtics. Evan Fournier, does he? I mean, he has a lot of shooting. Yes, Alex, rep your jersey. Yes, Evan Fournier brings shooting. Yes, Mo Wagner brings rebounding. But is that the center you were really looking for?
Not at
Mo
all.
Wagner?
Not at all.
Were you really looking to trade away Daniel Tice?
That was the one person I did not want to trade away.
Right, both of you shut up. All I have to say in rebuttal is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
That's not going to take
Shut
you
the fuck
anywhere.
up.
Shut
the fuck up. You're just wrong.
That's the thing.
You're
sadly,
6 of your last 8, and the only 2 wins have been against the Bucks. You're 6 of your last 8. Only 2 wins have been against the Bucks.
No, we didn't win 2 times against the Bucks. We lost against the Bucks.
Although I'm a Celtics fan, I'm going to have to agree with Ryan because
Andre Drummond and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Let me not need another guard. And
let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me tell you why you're wrong. We had no bench scoring. Our entire game plan was give the ball to Jason Tatum, give the ball to Jaylen Brown, and then sometimes give it to Kemba. And then we get stagnant as hell. It was literally just them. What we did with this trade is we got another guy who can create off the dribble, who can, run an offense, be the only guy out there and, dish it out, throw some lobs. And then what we also did is addition by subtraction. We got rid of Tice, which he was good, and I liked him. But now we're starting Rob Williams. And he's going to, with these minutes, you've already seen it. He is stat sheet stuffing right now. He's getting like 5-6 boards, 5-6 assists, 5-6 points, and he blocks the ball like 3-4 times a game with a couple steals. He is the perfect player. He doesn't need the ball. All he does is defend and work his tail off. This is a great move. And then I like the fact that we traded away Tice to give Williams a chance to actually start.
Yeah, that doesn't really that didn't help our center problem. We have Robert Williams. Yes.
Have you been watching the games? Look at the difference with Rob Williams starting and before. There's a complete difference.
I'm saying we still have Rob Williams, but we don't really have any backup big men.
Tristan Thompson.
He has not really been producing that much.
What are you talking? Are you watching the games? I watch every game. I'll tell you, Tristan Thompson's good. He gets about 5-6 boards, and usually a couple of them are offensive rebounds where he kicks it back out or goes back up and gets fouled and gets a layup. He's great. I love what he does. But the fact that Robert Williams is going to get,
we needed to put us past the other big teams in the East was an all-star center.
No,
and all we had was Tice and Rob Williams. What we needed was we needed someone bigger.
You needed Drummond.
We needed Drummond, and now that we don't have it.
Just watch.
We're not going to have the big man presence.
Just watch. I've been
need.
telling everyone this. Watch what the difference that our team makes having Rob Williams start. And now we're going on a 7-game homestand after coming off 2 very convincing wins where we blew out the Bucks, and the Thunder aren't good, but we blew them out too. There was a stretch in that game where we went on a 19-0 run in the fourth quarter when it was a close game going in. Actually closed the game for once. It looked great. It looked fantastic.
Listen,
you guys
your rebounding still sucks because Moses Brown, some guy I've never heard of, had 19 rebounds at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
What is that supposed to mean? Like everyone's going to have a lucky day every once in a while.
It means your rebounding problem still has not been fixed.
If someone who was just called up from the G League can out-rebound both of our centers, that's not a good sign.
Dude,
it's not a good sign.
That's such an anomaly. That's not going to happen every single game. That's so ridiculous. That doesn't happen. That's like an anomaly. That's like out of nowhere. That guy had the best game of his career. And you know how I know that? Because in the second half, he went into halftime with 17 boards and 19 points. He finished the game with 23 points and 19 boards. Or 21 boards. So in the second half, we literally just shut him down.
So he did it in 15 minutes, by the way. He didn't start. He didn't play the entire game. He played less time in the second. Most of his time played was in the first quarter.
He played a ton of time in the first, and he still played a decent amount of time in the second. I watched the game through, dude. I'm telling you, it was nothing to worry about. The guy just had a disgustingly good game. That's gonna happen every once in a while. Guys are going to step up when they get an opportunity.
You did not fix your rebounding problem. And the 76ers, the Heat, the Bucks, even the Nets.
Bucks that we just beat and should have beat twice.
Even the Nets, they can out-rebound you.
Did you say the Nets can out-rebound us?
Yes, they can.
Dude.
Even the Hornets can. The Hornets can out-rebound you.
You guys need to watch the games. That's all I have to say.
Hawks can out-rebound you. Every team in the East discussion, the Knicks can out-rebound you. Every team in the Eastern Conference playoffs, as of right now, in the playoff picture,
Alex, you know why he's saying that is because they all have star big men. Even the Hornets, PJ Washington has gone miles above what he was expected last year.
So you're taking PJ Washington over Robert Williams?
Yes.
Yes.
From what he's been doing, he's actually been doing very well.
You haven't been watching the games. Go look at the last two games and look at the difference.
Listen, I know Robert Williams is going to make a difference, but it's just Robert Williams. After him, once he goes on the bench,
and then we got Mo Wagner to come off and shoot. I think we did a great job.
All right, Mo Wagner, and we also got Luke Cornett.
And he's been nailing threes like it's nothing. Literally, I don't think he's missed the three since he's been in Boston.
We're not talking about threes. We're talking about rebounds.
Okay, he can.
And what we're getting with those two, it's going to be nowhere near the competition that we have in the East.
And Robert
Williams have Adebayo
great on the boards, and they already have been great on the boards. Tristan Thompson, we watched him win a championship. Off being able to switch screens. That was a big part of them.
That was 5 years ago too.
I know, but that was a big difference, and he still has that ability. He's shown it this year too. Great offensive rebounder, still maybe the best offensive rebounder in the league. One of them at least. So my loser, and this may sound a little bit, weird, but let me explain it. My loser of the trade deadline, the Toronto Raptors. Because right now, they're stuck in limbo. They're going to be like maybe a playoff team, probably a play-in team, somewhere around there between like the 5th and 10th seed in the East. And they didn't trade Kyle Lowry, which they could have gotten a lot more young assets for. Because right now, it's clear. When they lost Serge Ibaka and Marcus Gasol in the offseason last year or 2 years ago, in these last couple of years since the championship, they're starting to move on a little bit. They lost Kawhi, lost Serge, lost a lot of their core pieces. So they have a new core set up with Siakam, Van Vliet, and Powell was part of that. He got traded. I don't like the Gary Trent trade at all, but that's neither here nor there. Now they're sitting here in limbo with Kyle Lowry. They should have traded him and got young assets, as well as they have OG Anunoby as well. Great player, great young player. They could have gotten more young assets. Right now they're sitting in limbo. They're going to be probably a lower tier playoff team, but not going to be able to get into that upper echelon of the East like they've been the last, 3-4 years. So that's why they're my losers. They needed to move on from Lowry.
I completely agree with this. Lowry, it has been the franchise for the last decade. You could say he's the best player, but then Kawhi Leonard's 1-for-1 in his only year for the Raptors. So
yeah, DeMar is better than Kyle too. There's,
yeah, Lowry's been there for a decade, and I know they were looking to trade him to a playoff team. I know I was talking with a couple of buddies about it, about him getting traded to like a team like the Magic or a team like the Rockets.
No.
But what young players would they give up, and how many? Like, I don't think they would.
They wouldn't want to move anybody.
Yeah. So what happened is he was offered. They called the Lakers, Sixers, and the Heat. That's who they called. That was it. The Lakers, Sixers, and Heat. And they said, throw us your offers, and we're going to go through them. And then they didn't like any of them. They said, give us your final offers. This was about 20 minutes before trade deadline. Didn't like any of them, so they held on to them. What they should have done is taken the best offer and moved on and let their franchise move into this next era, the Fred VanVleet, Siakam, OG Anunoby, those guys, that era. Because they're still stuck in limbo with Lowry. As much as you love him, because he's, been everything for them for the ever since he got there. You got to move on from him,
And
got to get some good picks, good players, something. I'm sure there was a decent trade where they get 2 role players and like a pick.
Yeah.
All right.
The thing they're missing out on is getting assets for Lowry, because now they're just going to let him walk.
Yeah.
At the end of the year. And I don't expect them to make the playoffs. Yeah, I expect them to probably be in the play-in game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're going to be a play-in team, in my opinion.
Especially with losing Norman Powell. And like you said, Gary Trent and Rodney Hood, that doesn't account for what Norman Powell did for this team. So and they're not going to get any assets for Lowry. So it's going to be, like, in turn, they messed up, but it's for their franchise guy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's good.
Are
but
they
at the same time,
like really upset? They're not too upset because it's their guy, and he
If-
gets
if
to play
anything-
the
yeah,
rest of
but
the season.
Lowry was fine with leaving though. Like he even said, he's like, I'm just waiting to get a text, basically. Like he had a press, like he was ready to say goodbye to Toronto. He loved them, but he understood what was happening, and he would have been fine with it. So that was my whole thing. Now he's stuck here, and he's not. He could have been like that last piece to a championship team possibly, and now he's sitting here on a lower tier playoff team.
The one thing I can see nothing happening with the Raptors this year, but come free agency, or this season, but come free agency, I think they're gonna make if they let Lowry walk, we're gonna see some big moves from the Raptors, at least in the free agency.
Well, who's going to go to Toronto?
I don't know.
They've
but
never signed anyone.
If the offer is big enough, I'm sure they'll be able to at least get
Kawhi.
someone in to play along with OG and Pascal and everybody.
They didn't get Kawhi. They got a trade for Kawhi. They've never signed a big time free agent to Toronto.
It might be the year, but I think they're gonna have the room. If they let Lowry walk, they're gonna have the room, and they'll try to bring in someone big. And we may see a big splash from next season, but as of right now,
if I'm a free agent, I'd rather go to New York than I'd rather go to Toronto. I'd rather go to, there's a bunch of teams that have better systems in place and stuff. Better coach.
Cores in place.
Yeah, cores is what I really, but like, they have their system of players. They have, their guys coming up. They have their veterans. I'd rather go to the Knicks right now instead of the Raptors. Plus, it's New York. That's awesome,
Yeah. It's always a big destination. A lot of players went there, even if the team was bad at the time, they're like, it's New York.
Yeah, it's LA, it's New York, it's Chicago.
You're either going to go to New York or
Texas,
LA. That's where
Miami,
that's where the most opportunities are.
Yeah, those are some really nice destinations that they like to go to.
So, Jaden, who's your loser of the trade deadline?
Yeah, let's hear it, Jaden. Let's hear this ridiculousness.
I already said it.
Rob Will slander.
I already said it. I agreed with Ryan. That was my pitch right there.
Some Rob Will slander. You guys are gonna see. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll bet you $100
Simulcom.
they're better, way better in the second half. And it's not only just because of Tatum and Brown, it's because of Rob Williams. He's that big of a deal. Keep shaking your head, Ryan. You don't watch the games.
I mean, all I
You're
know
a
is
Nets fan who doesn't even watch
can't
the
stop
Nets
Brooklyn.
games.
All I know is that you can't stop Brooklyn. So we'll see you in the first round, and we'll be waving goodbye to you in 4 games. So have fun. You know,
I mean, that's also part of it, because especially with the Nets, that move is not going to help us in the long run. We're not going to get past the Nets with what we have right now.
No, that was never the idea, though. That was never the plan. Like
that's the thing. We need to get past them.
We're still a young team. We still have another year, I'd say.
You can't keep saying you're a young team. You've been a young team since 2017. You can't say the same excuses over and over again. At some point, you got to produce.
Can you believe
Jaylen Brown's in his 4th season? Jason Tatum's in his 5th season. You got to start producing.
Can you believe Tatum's
honestly, you guys have regressed this year.
Yeah, we've gotten worse, but it's not at all due to all the reasons that the media says or what people think. It has everything to do with Brad Stevens not having the pieces in place to run his system. Because you could tell without practices and stuff like that, before the Celtics were the best defensive teams, always with Brad Stevens. This year, we're bottom tier in defense. And has everything to do with Brad Stevens not being able to practice with his team and coach them on defense. Because, we were one of the best help defending teams. And that has everything to do with that. So I think come playoff time in a 7-game series, you might see the Celtics upset some teams when they have a proper, practices and stuff like that to actually work out a plan and get proper time with their guys.
We're gonna move a little bit into the UFC right now because there was a big fight night last night.
Big fight night.
Mr. Francis Ngannou took down Stipe Miocic for the UFC undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Took him out with a nice left hook in the second round, less than a minute into the second round. What did you see from the fight last night, Alex? From both Stipe and Ngannou?
I saw from Stipe a fighter that's one of the greatest, but I saw in Francis maybe the highest peak I've ever seen from a heavyweight ever in the UFC. And I'm talking peak Lesnar, peak Cain Velasquez, peak Alistair Overeem. Francis Ngannou might be last night, he might have been the scariest heavyweight I've ever seen fight a fight. He was methodical. He was slow. He controlled the pace. And when he needed to, he pushed the pace. He stuffed the takedown. He went offensive with the takedown, but he got back up as soon as he said, listen, this isn't my real house. He was throwing leg kicks. He was throwing punches. He was landing. He was throwing feints. That was one of the best performances I've ever seen from a UFC heavyweight.
From my perspective, when I saw Ngannou stop the takedown and then go into the offensive on the ground, I knew Stipe was going to be in for a long night. And it wasn't too long after that because Ngannou with his, I don't know like if you can call it generational. I don't know like the term you could use for his knockout power.
It's more than generational. It's like once in a lifetime.
It's his knockout power is so influential that Stipe was the underdog in this matchup.
Well, he was the underdog in the last one too.
Really? I didn't know that. I thought Stipe.
The first time they fought, he was the underdog. He was a 3-1 favorite as of 2 weeks ago.
The thing that surprised me the most, though, of why he was the underdog is that he's been on a title defense since, I want to say, 2017.
So he has 6 title fight wins and 4 defenses. He originally won it back in 2016, I want to say. Defended it twice, lost to Cormier, won it again, defended against Cormier. And I want to say, and then this was the first fight
And then it was
since
this
the
fight.
trilogy. So he has 6
So yeah,
titles
so
in total.
he's won the title twice. Both times he's lost it have been by knockout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Stipe still, if it wasn't for that left hook, he looked fine. Not that okay.
I don't
Not that
know. Francis was controlling that whole fight, man.
Like Francis was controlling it, but Stipe was still able until
Yeah,
that
he was
left
still
hook.
in it. As soon as
And
Francis,
then that left hook hit, and you saw his soul leave his body.
yeah, well, he caught him with the jab. He caught him with the jab, and I was like, "Oh, this is it." And then he starts wailing on him, starts going on him.
Well, he was fading there when he caught him with the jab, but you can tell Stipe still knew what was going on.
Yeah. So then Francis, like a veteran, this was absolutely amazing. He looked fantastic. Pulls off, and as he's going backwards, Stipe catches him with a right. Francis resets, left hook, boom, lights out.
Game
Sack
over.
of potatoes, just fell.
So now the question that everyone has been talking about. Do we see John Jones, Francis Ngannou for his first title defense?
I think we do. And not only do I think we do, I think John wins that fight. I think John wins that fight.
I mean, if John Jones wins that fight, gains all the weight and wins that fight, he's the GOAT of UFC.
He already is the GOAT of UFC. This is just adding on top of it.
He's,
from my perspective.
Not the GOAT yet. GSP, what that man did in the ring, he was special.
John Jones has more title defenses and wins than GSP.
Cool.
And GSP lost. GSP lost as well.
Well,
Cormier is how, you know how many Hall of Famers John Jones has beaten? Like every single one of his title fights was basically a Hall of Famer. Except like the first half of them, like Rampage, Loyola Machida, Cormier twice he beat. You kidding me? Get out of here. I think Jones, and not only do I think it's going to be so surprising because people are just going to expect Ngannou, oh, he's going to knock out Jones. Jones is going to go in there kickboxing. He's going to hit him with the knee kicks. He's going to hit him with the calf kicks. He's going to chop away at those legs. Then when Francis is going to start trying wailing on him, he's going to go to the takedown. And with all the weight that he's put on, he's going to be able to out-wrestle Ngannou. Because he's already probably one of the best wrestlers in UFC. You're going to see it towards the end of the fight. Much like Jan Blachowicz did to Adesanya, where he tired him out first a little bit, and then once he got a little more tired, then he let loose with the takedown. I think it's going to be very similar to that, where he's going to be chopping away on the outside, because John Jones is the best at keeping and maintaining distance. He's the best at keeping you where he can hit you, but you can't hit him. That's what he is the master of. He has mastered that. And you're going to see that.
So, if Ngannou then in turns beats John Jones, and let's say a KO, because he's tied second most in the heavyweight division with 10 KOs finished. So if he gets to 11th, he'll be the second most guy. He'll be one behind
Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis.
Who he lost to, by the way, might I add.
I know, he did lose to. But that's, again, if you look at Ngannou's track record, he's lost to Stipe when he was a champion, lost to Derek Lewis, and then
that's it.
Yeah, he's only lost 2 fights.
Well, he's lost 3 fights, but he's only lost 2 in the UFC.
2 in the UFC,
I believe.
So, where do you think this puts Ngannou if he were to face John Jones and beat him for his first title defense?
Okay, so this is really interesting because I think it would be like a fine wine thing, where if John goes on, if he gets knocked out and then John goes on and starts beating a bunch of people in the heavyweight division, that would be a really impressive win. If he lost,
we'll have a round 2.
Yeah, then we'll have a second Jones and Ngannou fight. But if he gets knocked out and then he goes again and he's just not the same fighter at heavyweight, it's John Jones, but it's like, listen, this isn't the prime John Jones that we were all thinking of. You know what I mean? But you would still be a big deal, obviously, because whenever you defend a title, that's a huge deal, huge accomplishment.
Especially for a name like John Jones, that would be huge for him.
Yeah, that would be insane. That might be the biggest fight ever, including those Conor Khabib fight, like Conor Alvarez. I think Ngannou Jones might be the biggest fight ever. That would be nuts.
Hopefully it happens in the near future, which we both predict will happen.
They're saying the fall is what it's scheduled for, or at least they're aiming for. It's like the early fall, like September.
It's going to be very fun to watch.
Very fun to watch that. Very fun.
Another exciting player or fighter in the bantamweight division, Sean O'Malley last night. Or bantamweight or welterweight? I don't want to.
Bantamweight, 135.
Bantamweight, yeah, 135. I just want to make sure. What did you see from his fight last night? I just want to see like what you saw, and then I'll go into what I saw.
I saw the reemergence, should I say. I don't know if he ever left, really. He had a one-off fight with Chito Vera where he was injured, and Chito Vera was beating him in the fight, but he tore his ACL, and it really, he couldn't put any weight on it, so it completely changed the dynamic of the fight, and he couldn't move like he normally does. I saw the reemergence of a future champion at 135 is what I saw last night. I saw a guy who has the power to put anyone in that division down, who has the kicking and, skill with his legs to keep distance. He's a 5'11", 135er, which is almost unheard of. He has that ability with his kicks to keep you at a distance. He has that long man, lengthy fighting style, that Muay Thai, where he's keeping you at a distance. And the spinning heel kick, the front kick to the face that he hit a couple times was great. He had some great calf kicks as well as upper thigh kicks, side kicks to the body. He was putting on a clinic out there. And Almeida is no joke either. Almeida comes from one of the best Brazilian camps that there is in the world. And he put on a clinic. So I saw the reemergence of a future 135 champion.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, what I saw from O'Malley last night, he made Almeida look like an amateur. He really did. And don't get me wrong, Almeida is a good fighter, but Sean O'Malley was that much better last night. I mean, his unorthodox fighting style, where he's constantly switching stances, constantly throwing different things at you. One minute he's throwing you leg kicks, the next minute he's throwing kicks to your head, kicks to your body. I mean, he switches it up, and he's also very fun. He's always looking for the next trend. I mean, he saw in the first round he knocked down Almeida with a pretty good kick. Started the walk away because he thought he was down for the count, but of course Almeida, tough motherfucker. He gets back up. He still fights. He's still going. Sadly, in the third round, his body just let go.
Yeah.
Well, O'Malley also got pissed off because he tried to walk off again, and then
he just hit him with an absolute hammer.
Yeah, he put the hammer down with that with that fist, and it was. Yeah, I mean O'Malley. I know the commentators all night were saying that he should have finished him in the first round, but I think it showed that him going to the second, third round, that he can withstand a longer match, especially when he gets to those championship rounds. But he also has the knockout power where he can finish you in the first round.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see where O'Malley rises in the ranks, especially in the bantamweight division. Do you expect a championship matchup and at some point in the next year, we'll say? So year from today, do you think O'Malley has a match?
For me, he needs to get another win from a top, ranked guy, which we'll see if that happens. Just based off hype, he would get a top 10 nod. They'd put him in the top 10. And then after that, he'd have to face a top 5 guy. I don't know. He'd probably have to win another 2 to 3, depending on who he fights and what happens. If Dillashaw gets a fight, there's a lot of moving parts here. I could see a fight in a little over a year. I'd say 14 months if he goes on like a 2 to 3 fight win streak.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think he'll get another fight sometime in like maybe late June or July. Maybe he gets a fight for the Ngannou card, because that would be a nice card to get another.
Yeah, like a September, something like. I'd see him fighting in another 3-4 months, then another 3-4 months, and then if he wins 3 in a row against ranked guys, I think you have a discussion, and plus he's a future star,
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
all right,
he's a very exciting prospect, and I can't wait to watch him.
I agree. Yeah,
Good amount of UFC talk in there from you two. You guys know what you're talking about over there. I'm not very well versed in the UFC, so I leave it to those two.
Hey,
but
you're welcome.
Thank
to
you,
join us
everybody,
anytime, buddy.
for watching the third episode of the FGs and Threes podcast. We plan on having a couple more interviews that we're going to be filming within the next week and a half. So we hope to see you there. I'm Jaden Rogers. With me as always, Ryan Martell and Alex Martell. Thank you for watching.
See ya.